Galimera, Galispera, Galinichta. No matter where in this wild, wacky, and sometimes wonderful world you might be, thank you for making the Highbury Squad part of your day. Arsenal kicked the football. That's right. Preseason is underway. Do you care? Or are you really into it? We've got one of our favourites here to talk us through our key observations. Let's rock and roll, squaddies.
Mind the gap between the train and the platform. Please stand clear of the discussion doors. The next stop is Highbury Squad.
Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to Squad Central. Let's see, where are we? Here we are. Guess who's in the house? Tom Canton's in the house. Welcome, Super Tom. How's it going?
Yeah, not bad. How are you?
Yeah, good. Good, thank you. Not too bad at all. By the way, those expecting the rival show, we're shifting that after the preseason. I totally forgot we were playing today. That's how switched off I am. That's what a great broadcaster I am, by the way. And asked Tom just a few hours ago if he could hop on and talk us through the first game in Singapore against AC Milan. Squaddies, at ease, everyone. Welcome back to Squad Central. Be sure to hit the like button, those listening on Apple and Spotify. Thank you so much. Subscribe and hit a review as well if you dig us. And absolutely do not forget to follow the rules and regulations of our Chief Like Officer, Tammy Steels. Tom, what do you think? First game. You know, I'm one that doesn't, it's not that I don't care. Maybe I care more when I'm there and I'm covering it because you kind of are involved in the vibe and the atmosphere and stuff. But I always just feel like preseason is for getting players fit and just making sure everyone comes through it healthy. I've seen so much excitement about players before in preseason and then it just kind of tails off. But the Arsenal in Singapore, what did you make of it?
Yeah, it had the vibe very much of the first preseason game. There was kind of rustiness and a lack of sharpness, I think, within the game. But there were still some really good things, some interesting things, some good performances, some shop window stuff, I think, as well. It was definitely a worthy game, like a game worthy getting up for and not forgetting about, Sophie, definitely. But it was, it was your classic first preseason game where there are still so many questions to come, really, and to be working out the answers of.
Yeah. I guess the takeaway from this, before I get to kind of like the headline, and everyone is raving about Max Dowman. And like I said, I don't want to sound like an old codger, but I have seen this movie before. I do think there are some players that have that X factor and that star kind of it quality, and it definitely seems like Max has that. I just don't want us to apply too much pressure on him. I've watched him play a little bit because of a family friend whose son is in the academy, Brando Bailey Joseph, who's another little star in the making. What did you make of Max's performance, and is everyone getting a little overexcited, and are we going to start putting too much pressure on him like we did Patino and many others?
Naturally, yeah. That is going to happen. It always happens with young players. But there is a lot of talent and a lot to like, about that performance, that show reel that we got from Max. You came on very confident. He, beat several players in different moments. He made the correct decision in a number of cases. Still some rawness to his game in others, but he's 15. So it doesn't look like a player who's as young as him. There are players on that pitch, I thought, that were not as good as Max Dowman, and that's a credit to him and the performance that he put in and what he offered in the game. Interestingly, he came on the right-hand side for Saka as well. He didn't play in midfield where he typically tends to play. He played in that right wing channel and kind of cut inside onto his left foot quite a lot. So that was also quite interesting to see kind of where he was fitting into the team too. So yeah, there's lots to be excited about. I think fans should absolutely temper their expectations as always, not to take things too far. But he's a very, very talented player.
Are you surprised? Like last tour too, there was, Nwaneri played, Nichols played, Heaven played. There were a lot of young players from the Hayland that kind of came through. Dowman, I think, comes through with a little bit of that sprinkle. Nwaneri, Saka, he's a star in the making type. Do you feel this is just to kind of, hit his professional ground running? Do you see him featuring in the squad next season? We see 16, 17-year-olds abroad do it all the time in other leagues, Tom. Can you see a scenario where he has a part to play?
Absolutely. Just the way that Mikel Arteta talks about him gives me that sense that he sees him as somebody who's going to contribute. He's been training with the first team for a long time now, waiting to get this kind of opportunity. And he's going to get more, across pre-season. There's going to be more opportunities to see him play and to get more minutes and more opportunities, I imagine, too. So, yeah, I think that he will have opportunities in substitute appearances, in the cups. These are moments where I think we will get a chance to see what he's capable of. But I just think that, again, there's a lot of players still very much ahead of him, in the pecking order, and there's some that still could potentially come in during this window as well. And I think it's important to just keep our feet on the ground. And as you say, don't get into a Charlie Patino situation again and get hyped too much and put too much pressure on somebody incredibly young, and just to kind of wait and see what their journey's all about.
So another player who, was talked about a lot this summer. I love how Nwaneri's dad just phones people up and puts them in their place with all of these rumors. And by the way, well done on your show the other day. I caught up on it yesterday, finally, about shutting shit down.
Pretty much, yeah. Myth busting.
Myth busting. Nwaneri, though, couldn't find a picture of him actually, but I'm sure I will eventually. This is a great picture anyway. It was great to see so many of the Hale End making their mark, but this time it really feels different. Like, these players are really super talented, Tom. Nwaneri, what did you make of him? And definitely playing with a little chip on his shoulder and something to prove.
Yeah, he was, I think, the highlight of the first half and the standout player of the first half as well. The touches, the movement, the way in which he beat players was really, really good. And obviously he had a couple of attempts at goal. One of them in particular on the volley from a Christian Norgard pass that was worthy of note. Again, was a great touch, a great strike, and a great save to match it as well. And it's interesting to kind of see how his development goes playing in this more central role. He'll be in competition with Ødegaard. He'll be rotating with Ødegaard, I imagine. He'll be coming off the bench for Ødegaard in quite a lot of games to help finish matches. And he'll come off the bench quite a lot, I think, to help us try and win matches as well that we aren't winning at the time that he enters the game. He is a massive, and important and vital kind of cog in the machine. And I think that keeping him at the club and getting that new contract signed, of which we were told, very clearly by his father to Dean Saunders, that he is and was not in discussions about guarantees over game time. He trusts the project. He trusts this pathway that they've got for him, and he trusts the manager to give him the opportunities that he clearly is showing that he deserves. Yeah.
Good for Ethan. And it's always, I think, when a player, sometimes with parents getting involved, we had that a lot here on Highbury Squad at one point, and got kind of killed for parents standing up for their kids and stuff. Of course, Ethan is very young and he's super talented, and I kind of like the myth busting and the dad getting involved, especially when you see the narrative that the media tried to brew, Tom. Miles Lewis-Skelly talked to Henry Winter about it just a couple of days ago, the difference in how certain media cover Grealish and Lewis-Skelly and Bellingham and Rashford and Sterling. And I think it's really important that you don't try and set up a story that this kid is a diva. And then people like me start to question it. It's like, why is he asking for guaranteed time? So another reason to just kind of, hold the mayo and the mustard before you find out certain truths. Okay, what about this guy? Zubi Zizzles. That's a new word I've created, Tom, not sizzles, Zizzles. You like that one?
I'm willing to let it grow on me. What is Zubi-Dubi-Doo was what it was.
A lot of Arsenal fans. We did a show with Kevin Hatchard and also spoke to Graham Hunter, as you know. Some Arsenal fans were like, I just don't see it. Even a very good friend of ours wasn't super excited about the Zubimendi signing. I can't wait to see this guy actually playing proper competition. Your observations about Zubimendi?
Yeah, where Ethan was my player of the first half, Zubi was my player of the second half. I was really impressed with his performance and really impressed to see what he's going to provide in terms of progression, how that number 6 role is going to change. And we have that stat on the screen there about line breaking passes. He played a number of these through that really got Arsenal onto the front foot quickly. I think the difference between Partey in terms of playing like kind of perspective, Partey's passes out to those wide positions where he would kind of put the ball out to Saka or to Martinelli on the left. Sometimes they lacked a little bit of verve and didn't have the pace. But Zubi just absolutely fires these passes into the forward line with such accuracy and such precision. And it really gets Arsenal moving quite quickly and on the front foot, as I said, very fast. So that was really exciting. He didn't just stick to the 6 role either. He ventured forwards. He got into advanced positions when we were doing our traditional and trademark kind of passing around the edge of the box. He was getting involved in combinations. Played a really good ball through down the left half space for Philander Trossard, which nearly created an opportunity as well. So, yeah, a really good first showing for a player who is, entering a brand new space, brand new environment, new teammates, going to be a new league when he starts in the Premier League. It was really, really impressive to watch him play.
Yeah, Kevin said the same thing actually about how he's not going to hesitate to break the lines and pass fast. And one of the biggest complaints last season as well was, and last season seems to be a little bit tricky in terms of comparisons to Mikel Arteta's teams, the 2 previous seasons where we did see us break ankles and start fast and be up at halftime and close games out. And there was that fearlessness of once we went up, we didn't feel like we were going to lose. And last season, of course, the injuries didn't allow us to play the game. And maybe Mikel played more fearful than fearless, Tom. But what's your take on the way you saw Zubi play, even Ethan in the first half, the introduction of Dowman? Mikel was criticised heavily for being boring last season, too pragmatic. The possession obsession, I don't think will go away. But did you see something that maybe, okay, Mikel's going to try stuff out too, as much as players are going to kind of get their feel for it as well?
Yeah, it's really,
wise for next season.
It's really difficult in pre-season because obviously, you're not playing with your best 11, and we didn't play that today. We played with 2 different 11s in both halves, and changes were made, and it's just about kind of like building up match fitness and trying to just work out who's looking sharpest ahead of the new season. You make those decisions. I think that last season, the way in which we played was very much predicated on the availability of players. There was a really interesting interview that Arteta did just a couple, I think yesterday or the day before yesterday, where he spoke about how he said he didn't pick players based upon the opponent or based upon tactics. He picked players last season based upon their availability and their fitness and their stamina and how available they were to play the game, because he couldn't pick players for tactical reasons because he was so limited in what he had available to him and the players that were able to play that he couldn't choose. But now we've got a really strong squad with really good depth and, competitive options in loads of different positions. And that hopefully was going to give Arsenal and give Arteta the ability to look a lot more threatening, to play more like we did in 23-24 when we blitzed teams so often. But I think he needs to be better still at rotation, at substitution making, and, working out how to utilize all of these players that he's got available to him. Because, while Gabriel and Timber were missing today, which takes you down to 20 in the overall grand scheme of things, if, Gyokeres and Mosquera, once they come in, it's still going to be a situation where players are left out at times, and he's going to have to make those tough choices. He's got players like Dowman banging on the door to also get potentially in the squad. So I look forward to seeing how that develops and how our style of play changes with players like Zubimendi and Gyokeres, of course, as well, in that forward line, and how those 2 in particular change the style and the how we watch Arsenal and how we appreciate and how they unleash their quality on the field.
Yeah. I think it's going to be, I'm really excited about the fact that it feels like we're back to having an X factor. He's got more Arsenal in his toolbox, forgive the pun, but that's something that we've needed the competition as well in various areas as well, Tom. Another surprise, not a surprise, but we have another keeper who can save penalties, maybe, Tom?
Yeah.
Kepa the keeper?
Pepper the keeper. Yeah, it was. He didn't really have to do much in the game. There was one shot from Rafael Leao, who, I can never understand why any Arsenal fans really want Rafael Leao at Arsenal. And I think this was a perfect game of showing why I'm just so not enamoured by the idea of him being a player. He's for all the people that criticise Gabriel Martinelli, he has got loads of the Martinelli traits that I criticise all the time, in him. And it was his shot that Kepa had to save, and he saved it very comfortably because it wasn't a very good shot. But when it got to the penalty shootout, he made some really good stops in those moments. It's a really important thing for him, I think, to have that second. I think it was really clever of Arteta to give Raya the first half and Kepa the second, knowing that he'd be the player that would be facing the penalties. And yeah, some really good stops. He's a good shot stopper. That is part of his game he's not necessarily as strong in commanding his box as Raya is, but in terms of shot stopping, that is the part of his game that is really good. So yeah, I think that he won't get loads of minutes, but he's not cup tied like Neto was last season. And I think that having a better keeper, of course, as that number 2 maybe helps to take some pressure off of Raya as well and make him feel like it's not all the world isn't all on his shoulders to last his way through the season.
Yeah, I thought too. Very smart management from Mikel, making him feel part of the action early on. And let's be honest, there's going to come a time where Kepa's going to have a role to play, and probably in the domestic cups. So I'm looking forward to it. And it was good. It was good to see him do his thing as well. Okay, before I get to the headline piece, Tom, there's been a lot of talk about, our transfers, of course. And by the way, I'm loving all of this new stuff that's coming out with Gyokeres. This one from Arsenal N7, GoonerChris, if you're not following him on the old X, please go do so. I don't know who started the connection with Bane.
I think he did. I'm pretty sure, but yeah, I think so. I'm pretty sure that's what he's based his celebration on. I'm sure
is it all based on Bane? I wasn't sure where the nucleus of this came from, because
he said that his mates had been saying to him that he needs to come up with a celebration because he's scoring and he's not doing anything specific, so he started doing this. But I thought he would link it to that, but maybe I'm mistaken, and it's just something that's kind of been because he wears a mask sort of thing.
No, I'm sure you're right, because there've been so many masked heroes and villains as well, and also Bane. He's not really a hero, is he? He's a pretty bad dude, but I guess we want Gyokeres to be a really bad dude. And when is he arriving in Singapore? Do you know, or is he going straight to Hong Kong? Where's he going?
Currently I think he's going to London. He's going to do some bits in London, and then, having signed the deal at Arsenal, he'll fly out to join the team in Singapore. So it could be that we see him for the Newcastle game. It might come a little bit too soon, but hopefully he gets involved with the Tottenham game. That'd be great. I mean, making your debut against Spurs, in a preseason friendly, regardless of how important the game is, that's a really exciting moment to have that happen. So he is so determined to play for Arsenal. That's what excites me most about this transfer, is just how much he wants to do this, how desperate he is to play for Arsenal specifically. So that's what's excited me, I think, actually most about this, is a player that's so clearly determined to turn Arsenal and to take that position into a new stratosphere, and I'm looking forward to it. Yeah,
I agree with you, Tom. To have a player that has worked so hard to join this club, I don't know if I've seen a player who's worked this hard to just want to be an Arsenal player. And in a time where lots of money is flying around in football, the Saudi money's always on the table for top players. His old manager at Manchester United, initially, everyone thought he would just follow Amorim to Manchester United. Of course, Champions League football probably has a lot to do with it, but there are other teams that are in the Champions League that would have loved to have Gyokeres on their books. And the fact that he has fought so hard, it just warms the cockles of my heart. And everyone's fallen in love with him already, and the squaddies are backing up your story. Apparently he has talked about this. See, now you've got me checking celebration stories as well, myths versus facts.
I did do a little Googling while you were talking, and he posted an edited video of a few of his highlights on Instagram in June of last year, I would assume, or maybe this year, with the caption of "Nobody cared until I put on the mask," which of course is a quote from Bane. So I assume that's what the inspiration is. Yeah. So
I love it. Well done. Or you can always rely on Tom for good research. Hit the like button, everyone. There's over 300 of you in live chat talking to Tom here about the preseason in Singapore. Okay, so for me, as much as I'm excited about everyone coming in, and you always want to see the new players do well, seeing Saka, back, we did towards the end of last season. He captained the side coming out today. To me, Tom, you can bring whoever you like in, and I'm very happy with this transfer window so far. But I think Saka is still the key to the Arsenal. I think he's still Arsenal's most important player. That might play out differently with having a number 9 this season. Saka's still the Arsenal Don.
Yeah, he was very lively. Again, he still lacks a bit of sharpness, like pretty much everybody did. He had a couple of opportunities where he could have done better, but his finish was good. Even though he hit it into the ground, it kind of bounced into the side netting, but it was right place, right time. Shout out to Kivior, of course, as well for the delivery, which was excellent. His passing has just come on leaps and bounds in the last 6 months for Kivior. It's been really impressive. But his movement was very good. He took players on. He did have an attempt at goal that didn't quite have the right verve on it that usually does, and it went straight into the keeper's arms. But the right-hand side looks really good for Arsenal. It's the left where I think there are more concerns, but Saka definitely, is heading again towards a very, very important season for him. I think Ødegaard, linked up again with him quite well. There were definitely improvements on what some of those struggles the pair had last season. So hopefully they've shaken off a little bit the rust of the previous campaign.
What as good as Timber is, what do you make of a lot of fans I've seen writing about Benjamin White, Saka? It's what we missed last season. Timber has been absolutely sensational for this club and one of the most important players. Tom, how do you see that playing out?
I think it's just a great problem. I think Arteta gets 2 really good options at fullback. Ben White was, again, one of the really standout performers, I think, in this game. He had a really good performance. He got forward well. He supported Saka really well. He defended well. Could have had a goal, in his game as well if he didn't drag his shot wide from one of the rebounds. So, yeah, I think that having both of those players, they're not exactly the same. They are different stylistically. Timber's a little bit more secure defensively. White does a little bit more going forwards. So depending on the opponent you've got, I think you can utilise those. And if it was a Champions League final, I'd probably be starting Jury and Timber at right back if they're both fully fit. But most of the games you play in the Premier League, you're probably, benefiting from having Ben White. So it's a really good problem that we've got. And both of them will see minutes, I'm sure.
Yeah, I agree. I love it. I love, again, it's another, I was talking, I think it was with Henry when I was, he was raving about Madueke, and, he was talking about how he spent time with him and how much Tuchel loves him. And when he's interviewed him, he says he's really bright. He's a really smart guy, that he's been working this summer with a skills coach and just honing in on, his craft. He loves the way he applies himself, and he just absolutely ripped to shreds the petition and all of the reaction to that. And he just raved about him basically. And then you kind of, Arsenal fans who've complained about, Man City can bring $100 million player off the bench, and then you buy someone for 50 and he's actually quite good. And whether he comes off the bench or not is part of the squad. I think this new kind of Arsenal forming and shaping, and the quality for quality, Tom, that we've really lacked in the last few seasons is so important, and especially pertaining to protecting Saka. You got Benjamin, you got Timber, and the rest.
Yeah, we with the business that we've done, we've got at least 2 competitive options in every single position in that 11 now. You've got Raya and Kepa, Timber and White, Saliba and Mosquera, Gabriel and Kivior, Calafiori and Lewis Skelly, Norgard and Zubimendi, Rice and Marino, Ødegaard and Nwaneri, Saka and Madueke, Gyokeres and Havertz, and Martinelli and Trossard. That you've got 2 options in every single position. And we're not done. The hope is that Arsenal can go into the market and add, say, an Eze or a left-sided player, that we can upgrade the options that we've got on that left-hand side as well. So, yeah, there's plenty for this Arsenal fan base to be excited about based upon the squad that we have built.
By the way, Dave V, I could see this now with Gyokeres coming. He's suggesting Arteta could be the Riddler. Yeah,
hero now.
Batman, Arsenal players and coaching staff as Batman characters. I did this a few years ago with Will Tidy from the Bleacher Report. We did Arsenal players if they were Star Wars characters, which is always a lot of fun. Tom, that left side, you mentioned it. There's a lot of questions for you in the chat about it. Some people saying this just underlines again when you see Martinelli that is he ever going to cross the line? Is he ever going to be that guy? Trossard on the flip side getting much more kudos. Are you leaning towards sell Martinelli, keep Trossard, the left side? What would you like to see if you were Andrea Berto? What would you do?
Look, I actually thought the best left winger on the day was Reece Nelson. I thought Reece Nelson came off the bench and had the best performance of the three of them. Trossard moved inside to the centre forward role when Nelson came on, but he looked more dangerous than both of them on the left, and that's a concern. That's a worry, because Nelson at the moment is being courted by Fulham over a very meagre deal. It's not going to earn Arsenal a lot of money, that deal, and yet the players that we're going to be keeping at this point in time have not necessarily shown enough. Now, it's the first game of pre-season, but I think fans are right to point out that we've had concerns about the left flank for a couple of seasons now, And
Tom,
this summer there was hope that we would bring somebody in. And I hope that player is Eze, and I hope that Eze comes in and has an opportunity to play and shows a lot of those that doubt his ability to play off the left and prove those doubts wrong. I just think that a lot of fans fall into the trap of wanting players that already they complain about similar traits that Martinelli has that they want in somebody else. That's why I said about Leao earlier. I think I can see people in the chat box saying, go and get Leao. Leao has the same frustrating annoyances that we see in Martinelli. His decision-making in the final third is not good enough. He blows hot and cold. He's not very consistent. He also doesn't work hard enough defensively compared to Martinelli. He might be slightly better offensively, but he doesn't have that consistency and killer instinct that I want from an upgrade in that position. Whereas I look at Eze as a player, that's a player who is a killer on the field and produces fantastic moments on a consistent basis, drags his team to massive wins. That's the type of player I want. I don't want to be buying a player on the left that, again, I'm desperately crying out to make the right choice over and over and over again, and they fail to do that. That's the issue with Martinelli. But at the moment, it doesn't appear that either of them are going to be going anywhere. There's no concrete links, really, with either leaving right now. That could change in August, but so far it looks like both of them will be staying.
So you talked as well after your golf game with your pals. You mentioned that you seemed to kind of take the temperature down a little bit on the Eze thing. Yeah, there are still, I don't know if it's headline grabbing journalists who are saying Arsenal have a keen interest in Eze. Well, who doesn't? Are you still feeling this or not really?
Yeah, absolutely. I think Arsenal are very interested. Mikel Arteta really, really wants Eze at the club. The problem that we've got is that we need to sell first and we need to move players on first. And there needs to be room for him, both spatially and financially, to bring Eze in. The only way you're going to get Eze from Palace is if you buy him from the release clause, which is £67.5 million. It can be structured. Doesn't have to be paid up front in total, to my understanding. But yeah, I can't see Arsenal being able to do that unless they move players. I'm not saying that has to be one of Martinelli or Trossard either. I don't think it has to be one of those, but certainly your Lokongas, your Nelsons, your Zinchenko's, your Karl-Heinz, and Fabio Vieira in particular. These guys have to be moved on, and that will give us more space to be able to do it. The mistake that fans make, and I discussed this on the Myth Show, is they conflate the Madueke deal with blocking like a deal for an Eze. These two things aren't related in any way, shape or form, because Arsenal prioritised the centre forward and the Saka kind of number two, because the reason they did that is they've already got two left wingers and they're not going anywhere at the moment. So they prioritised the positions that they knew they were shorter in, which was the centre forward role and the right wing position, because they only had Havertz and Saka in those areas and natural positions for those. So that's the mistake that people make, is they conflate the Madueke deal. It's got nothing to do with what we spent in that area. It's got nothing to do with it at all. But what Madueke is giving us is the ability to bring in a player that gives us, when Saka's not there, a really good opportunity to play a player in that role. but also he's so versatile that when Saka is there, we can still use Madueke in the opposite flank if we need to. In my opinion, his best position is on the right, and we need to still go out into the market and add that extra player.
Tom, apparently he's a tier 1 player. Before it was starters and finishers, and now we've got tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. So basically, if it was, journalists, it would be David Ornstein, tier 1.
Oh, goodness gracious.
Was that you?
Yeah, it came through my speakers then. I just managed to mute it.
Wow, crazy.
That was loud. Jesus.
What's this tier 1, tier 2 thing, real quick? Do you have 5 more minutes?
Yeah, I'm fine. Yeah, Arteta's basically said that he's moving away from kind of this tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. Tier 1 players were basically players that he saw as players that have the capacity to start for Arsenal. Tier 2 players are more players that, like Jorginho. That was the kind of tier 2 perfect example of that. And then tier 3s are more so those very much either on the fringes, like your Lokongas, your Vieiras, your Nelsons, your Karl-Heinz, or maybe a young player that's coming through that's kind of knocking on the door of getting opportunity. So that's kind of what it was. Okay.
So talk to me about who really... I put this State of the Union picture up from last season, and there's a lot of players. Fabio Vieira's not here. When I see Lokonga on tour, no disrespect to him whatsoever. You and I talked last season about Reiss Nelson, and we thought of all the... I would have rather kept Reiss Nelson than bring in Sterling. We had a show where we talked about that. But when you see the team kind of elevating, right? So in every position as much as possible, getting the number 9, the Lokongas and the Fabio Vieiras, Zinchenko. I'd like to keep Kivior. Mosquera's coming in. Who's on the docket? Whose pink slip is coming?
Well, Reiss Nelson obviously has got a lot of interest from Fulham. But beyond that, at the moment, there's not a lot of noise. And I think we've heard Como have got an interest in Fabio Vieira. There were suggestions Arsenal want about 20 million euros, just about 17-ish million pounds. Half the price, obviously, we paid for him 2-3 years ago. It doesn't look at the moment particularly promising. But what I would say is that these are players that are tending to be the types that get that interest in August. That's the time of the market that we start to get those offers coming in, because clubs are more desperate to try and find other options for the team and to try and find bargains in the window. So I imagine they will move, but like Ramsdale and Nketiah, both left, of course, and Nelson, of course, in the last 2 days of the last window. Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if we got towards the back end of the window and some of these players also ended up leaving.
Okay. And also remember to be respectful in chat. We welcome everyone here, and we don't do super chats. You get your opinions. I put as many up on screen as possible. So make sure that you stay respectful, because that is our community here at Highbury Squad. And our line, it's have your say in our football democracy. So make sure that you're being kind. All right, Tom, I'll get you out on a couple of these. So we've talked about the Hayland. We've talked about Kepa. The impact of Benjamin White and Saka relationship. We talked about Zubi zizzling, Max Dowman being a showman, the starting 11. Let me ask you this real quick about Mr. Kai Havertz, who everyone thought looked like the Incredible Hulk, and some people questioning what will Kai's role be. But much like Timber and Benjamin White and the competition, I would say competition. We got choices at left back, albeit maybe fans not wanting the players. We do have choices on the left side, the right side now. You got Mikel Merino, Zubi, Martin Odegaard, Rice in midfield. What's your take on Kai?
Well, Arteta was quite interesting afterwards. He said that he thought he was really good and that he got into a lot of really good positions and he wasn't found, which I thought was quite interesting. And a broader maybe problem with even Gyokeres coming in is that there's an argument that it's not just about finishing goal scorer, but of course the other issue that we've got has been creativity and finding the centre forward as well and creating the right type of chances for our players in those positions. So there's no guarantee that we sign a striker and everything is solved. I think it definitely improves us, no doubt. But there are other aspects to our game that also are going to need to get better. And one of those is the quality of the chances that we're creating as well. And there was a point where Martinelli was kind of through. He took a shot, but had a great run off his left side from Havertz, who was in completely free space on his left foot to shoot. And he didn't take that pass. He didn't make that pass. And Havertz was free and clear to have an effort. It was a performance from Arsenal today where we could have easily won 3, 4, or 5, but the goalkeeper had a great game and we were wasteful. We weren't clinical enough in the final third. So from that position, I think that Havertz is still a significant value to this team, but Gyokeres is going to come in and upgrade that. That's what we're expecting him to do, hoping that he does. So, yeah, let's wait and see.
Tom, does Gyokeres start for you against Manchester United come August?
It depends on pre-season, doesn't it? Like if Gyokeres comes in and struggles, he's not going to start immediately. But it's difficult to not want your new marquee signing to start a game, isn't it? It's difficult to not to want that player to start. So I'd love to see him start.
What would your front three be? What would your front three be?
Like, I mean, if we're saying everyone's fit and on top form, and I'm picking it based on that, and I'm just assuming that they're all going to play to the best of their abilities, it'd be Saka, Gyokeres, and at the moment probably Trossard would be the three. So I really hope that we find Gyokeres comes in and it hits the ground absolutely on fire, because to build up momentum early is a really big benefit. So I'm looking forward to seeing what more comes of that front line. But that's what I'd probably choose at the moment. Martinelli's performance today really did kind of remind me of the drawbacks that we've got.
I think starting off the season predictably would be the wrong way to go. Gyokeres, as much as people have seen him, he gives Arsenal something totally different, right? So if you start with Gyokeres, Saka on the right, I don't know who's going to start on the left, probably Martinelli.
Maybe, yeah.
Zubi, Odegaard, Declan Rice, and then the back line as is. Giving Manchester United something totally different to think about, but at the same time, I guess Amorim knows him so well, so he could give the dossier to his players. There's this, the players don't, but the manager does. And are Manchester United players, smart enough to figure it out? We saw last season in the Premier League, they really weren't. Is that like, am I all over the place on that one?
I don't think so. What do you mean? Like,
well, Amorim knows him really well as a player.
Yeah, but he's not the Sporting manager. He's Man United manager now. So the players are very different at his disposal.
Which is what I'm saying. The players, the Manchester United players don't really know him that well. So there's this mix of gives Arteta the opportunity to throw something unseen and unknown.
Yes. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. That makes sense. Yeah. I think that you could argue that it works for both, though, doesn't it? Because even though Arsenal are going to be able to train with Gyokeres for 3 weeks now until the Premier League starts, it's nuts that it's that close, less than a month away. But we can throw something unknown at them. But he's also still got to become familiar with his new teammates. He's got to learn the system and learn the ropes and learn everything about us. So, yes, we can do that, but we're also playing with fire in our own way. So you could argue maybe you start Havertz and you have that familiarity and then bring him in. But if he hits the ground running in pre-season, it's going to be a strong man in Arteta to deny him that start on the first day of the season.
430 plus in live chat. Hit that like button. We'll get Tom out on this. Tom, when you see the team and you see the player availability, of course, there are players who aren't there. Gyokeres isn't there. Mosquera isn't there. What's his face? Madueke isn't there. Do you feel like when you see it, you saw the bench, you saw the squad, the list, we can actually use maybe a couple more players, let alone one? And if players are going to go out, we were talking about it in our WhatsApp group yesterday as well, about what if the Zinchenkos of the world go and, who knows about Kivior or whatever. Do you feel like we need more still?
I think we need one more at least during this window. That third attacking signing, I think we really do need. If we were to sign 8 players, that's unheard of. And not just for Arsenal, for a team chasing the title, signing 8 signings in one window, like that you're signing on permanent deals. That's not normal. That doesn't tend to be. What sucks for me, from my perspective, is seeing how few people I think are going to appreciate if Arsenal do say Landon Eze on top of what we've already done. I was talking with FK about this on Latte Firm yesterday. The idea that Arsenal would have 7 signings and Eze is included on top of the 6 that we've already got, that there's some people that seemingly will rate that about 7 out of 10. I think that's nuts. Absolutely nuts that it would only be a 7 out of 10. Because
people on his show were saying 7 out of 10.
I think he did as. I think FK did as well. I'm sorry, FK or Faisal, if I'm misquoting you, but I'm sure he said it was. I think as I said, if Eze was to come in. Oh, actually, no, I am misquoting him. I think I said if Eze doesn't come, if Eze doesn't come in, I think he said it's currently a 7. What we've done so far is a 7. I said I think it's closer to an 8. What we've done so far. If Eze comes in, I'd be saying it's a 9. And then if you signed another player on top of that, it's more. But he said if we signed Eze, it would go from a 7 to like a 9.5 for him because he loves the idea of signing Eze. So what we've done so far, he thinks is a 7. I think it's closer to an 8. I struggle going below an 8 for what we've done. You know, close to 200 million spent, brand new striker. Zubi is really underrated amongst the signings because we've known about it for so long, and adding so much depth and quality across the team elsewhere too. I can't really go lower than that, but Eze would be so good. Signing of the window for me if Arsenal managed to get him through the door.
I believe that Eze will be towards the end of the window. Eze knows the league, right? He's more familiar with all of that. And Gyokeres has played in England, yes. But it felt to me that with Gyokeres, the complexities of dealing with Sporting, I mean, Crystal Palace don't seem to be that easy to deal with, maybe, I don't know. But the complexities, it felt like Eze was going to be like, okay, he's the last on the list. And that they knew that would take time to bring him in. To me, it feels like he might be a deadline day announcement and signing.
Yeah, if we get Eze, amazing. If we had an 8th player on top of that, I'd be speechless. Speechless if we added an 8th player.
What do you want to leave the 400 plus folks in live chat with, Tom? What haven't I asked you? What didn't I ask you about maybe other observations with this preseason? What didn't I cover with you that you want the squaddies to know?
I think we have tackled pretty much everything at the moment. Until we see the rest of the window, you know, that for me is we're kind of stuck in a way because we can't make that judgment. Getting 6 signings in before the second game of pre-season is a really, really proactive approach from Arsenal this summer. You know, having those 6 signings done before that second game of pre-season, I'm really happy with that. But you're not getting my PIN number. I'm sorry, you're not getting it.
John's hilarious. And also, I had to put this up too. Oh, I didn't save it, but someone said after Dave said Arteta can be the Riddler, one of the listeners says, let's hope he doesn't become the Joker. Oh. Yeah, and that's we don't. I mean, he's been given the tools. He's got the ammo, Tom. There's no excuses. There's absolutely no excuses this season. That is a good squad. And, you know, we don't even talk about the Norgards and, you know, the Kiviors and the supporting cast, Mosquera. And I forget when I say it out loud, you know, Nwaneri could have a massive part to play. I mean, this is a really good squad. He's got all the tools. There's no excuses. None. I'm not having it this season. As much as I will defend and stand here and support the players and the manager and the club. There's this season, that is a good squad. That squad could win something.
Great squad. Yeah. I've always said, I want this summer to all be about putting Arteta in a position where if things don't work out, I can only point at him. That's what I want from a window, is that there's nothing left. There's nowhere to turn. There's no other excuses to have. That's what I want. And so far, we're nearly at that point. I think we need one more to be at that point for me. If we don't get kind of the player that comes in to be an option for us on the left, I'm going to be a bit gutted about that. If it turns out to be 6, I'm still going to end up being a little disappointed come the end of the window. But I still think it's been an amazing window. I just think that we just need that one more. Just that one more for me is really, really important.
Yeah. Okay. Brilliant stuff. Thanks, Tom. Some weird conversations going on in live chat today. I put some moderators out there. I'm going to have to start giving some yellow cards to the mods and red cards. Make sure that you hit the like button. Make sure you follow Tom. What's coming up tomorrow? Anything specific on your show?
8 a.m. show will be, obviously more reaction to today's game, discussing kind of what went on and what happened and the highlights on that. So a lot of what we've talked about here, but we've obviously a lot more of TGT side to it, and any more transfer stuff as emerges in the next however many hours we've got until tomorrow morning's show. So, and Arteta's press conference as well. There's some interesting stuff in there. He again said the word "yet" when talking about Gyokeres when he was asked. So, he can't help himself a little bit on that front now.
We can't wait. When it happens, it's going to be biblical. A lot of us thought that it would be an anticlimax once it was announced, but the excitement and even those fellow podcasters who were moaning were acting like little boys doing the old mask thing. So yeah, it's still exciting, and keep your heads together as much as you can, kids. Thanks to Tom. Thanks to you, squaddies. I'll be back live on Friday with Susie Rack from The Guardian. We're going to be talking about the Gunners, the Lionesses, who basically saved England in the Euros and what that means for the Arsenal women next season. Ajamang, a superstar in the making, Chloe Kelly, absolutely bossing the Euros. We're going to talk to Susie about that and so much more. Look out for more live shows on the community page. Until then, at eSquaddies, and don't forget to tell your loved ones you love them and behave out there, kids.
Mind the gap between the train and the platform. Please stand clear of the discussion doors. The next stop is Highbury Squad.